to our weekly climate change news report. I'm your anchor, Irene Zielinski. As an effect of rapid climate change, December 2019 has been the warmest December for Moscow's people since 1886. The extreme weather conditions caused no snowfalls, and the citizens, unhappy with the situation, started a viral social media campaign that consisted in shoveling invisible snow from the streets. In order to mitigate the general disappointment and to create a joyful ambience for the new year, the city authority dumped a truck of artificial snow in the Moscow's downtown area. Many parts of Alaska's interior and far north area are reeling under temperatures as low as 35 to 55 degrees below zero. Yet Alaska is the fastest warming state in the country, with temperatures being up by 4 degrees since 1970. Atmospheric scientist Brian Brettschneider has stated that despite the next level cold, the last year was the state's warmest year on record, with 326 record highs at major climate stations in Alaska this year, compared to 11 record lows during the same period. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been warned by the government's Advisory Committee on Climate Change to urgently address the climate crisis before Britain hosts a COP26 in Glasgow in 2020. The committee's letter to the Parliament requests to entirely remove fossil fuels from buildings and rapidly phase out petrol and diesel cars. Funding will also be needed to cut emissions from agriculture and to pay for the 30,000 hectares of annual tree planting as promised in the Conservatives' manifesto. For the first time since 1973, the UN is adopting an annual budget of $3,073,830,500. Stated by General Assembly President, the proposed budget for 2020 will provide the necessary resources to the UN Secretariat to implement its various tasks and to prepare for the beginning of the decade of action for SDG implementation. During 2020, all UN member states will have to start working on the implementation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, including taking urgent action to combat climate change effects. Wildfires raging in Australia since September 2019 have burnt down 5 million hectares of land, forcing thousands of people to evacuate and rush to safety. Around 4,000 people have evacuated their homes in Victoria and have been asked to move into the sea if fires around them continue to expand. The devastating fires have claimed 12 lives so far and are believed to have killed 480 million animals in a horrifying example of a natural disaster boosted by climate change. Scientists have just discovered the world's oldest forest dating back 386 million years in the town of Cairo in New York State. The network of fossil trees was found in an abandoned sandstone quarry, bringing new insights on the evolution of trees and their influence on the world. Understanding the ecology and habitats of the earliest forests and rooting systems will help researchers understand how trees draw carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, giving humanity new tools to fight climate change. Nature England's chair, Tony Juniper, and Environment Agency's Emma Howard-Boyd have warned that the 2020 is the last chance to bring the world together to tackle climate change. The warning comes after the recently concluded COP in Madrid closed without concrete commitments and ahead of a series of international meetings scheduled in 2020 in China and Glasgow. The heads of the two government agencies have called for decisive action to adapt to inevitable climate shifts and extreme weather. For the first time in 2019, Britain produced more electricity from zero carbon sources than from fossil fuel plants. Last year, Britain became the first G7 country to commit to reaching net zero emissions by 2050. The data shows wind, solar, hydro, nuclear, and imports produced about 48.5% of Britain's electricity in 2019. White fossil fuels such as coal and gas contributed to about 43%. Britain's windy coastlines have proved to be an ideal host for large wind projects. Mick Carney, the outgoing governor of the Bank of England, who is set to become the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, has warned that millions of people's assets could be rendered worthless because of climate change. He suggested that the financial sector needs to take cognizance of the impending climate crisis and must speed up divesting from fossil fuels. England's central bank had earlier warned that $16 trillion of assets could be wiped out by climate change. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has addressed the youth of the world as the greatest source of hope in his New Year message. In his speech, he appreciated the determination of the young people. He believes that with the unique ways of thinking and expressions, tenacity of pushing the boundaries for good causes, and capability of handling the pressure, this generation will create a sustainable future and be on the front line of climate action.